is Ruthless, Rabid, Raging, Ravenous, Rampaging, Remorseless, Repulsive, Revolting, Repugnant Zombies by Jay Wilburn. This is my NaNoWriMo novel. Today's goal is to reach 10,000 words, which just means 2,500 words a day. So if I keep on this pace, I'll be finished by the 20th. Let's do this, Armand, I agree. So let's scroll down to the chapter we left off on. I'll read through it quickly and dive right back into the mess that Waldo Bloodfist finds himself in. Alright, so we're on chapter 4, probably close to the end of chapter 4, but it won't hurt to kind of get a running start back into the story. Waldo did fall. He had no real choice on that. Sometimes you fell. Sometimes you accidentally grabbed a zombie by his dick. Sometimes a zombie stuck his toe in your mouth and then acted all weird afterward. He did decide where he was going to fall, though. Instead of into the waiting teeth of the mob or the hard piles of rubble, he rolled and fell behind the truck onto its flatbed. Trying to land on his feet back there, he didn't quite turn in the air as much as he hoped. Fortunately, the twisted and tilted bed of the truck's trailer was covered in canvas, and the load hidden underneath was soft. Waldo sunk slowly into the canvas-covered items. The canvas was damp, and whatever was under appeared to either be melted or long ago rotted into near liquid. Lucky for him, except for the swamp gas smell released between the seams that stunk almost as bad as his mouth tasted. Lucky for him, let's put a comma there. It sounds like we're gearing up for a sentence, but that is the sentence. He started to crawl with a squishing sound each time he put down a hand or a knee. He imagined he was traveling over pudding with a thick skin. A hand reached out from under a flap of canvas to his left. It still had skin over the bone, but the fingers, palm, and forearm had a pink color and glossy texture that Waldo didn't associate with skin, at least not healthy skin. Waldo crawled away and started to hustle for the end of the tractor trailer, where it appeared to stick out beyond the field of rubble. The pudding was moving, undulating, twisting. The canvas skin broke in more places, with unhealthy pink hands and arms reaching out for whatever they could grab. A moan rose from below. It was a chorus of voices, but not a choir that had practiced much, maybe like one of those middle school choirs that parents are forced to listen to when they get tricked into going to PTA meetings. The moans continued, but cut off into a gurgling noise. Whatever was going on under him, it was moist. He crawled faster. As he clawed himself forward with his left hand and tried to propel himself with the right. As he clawed himself forward with his left, he tried to propel himself with the right. There we go. But his right arm planted in a weak spot, and he plunged up to his elbow in the unseen glut of zombie pudding under the loose tarps. All right, I need a comma there in that gross little sentence. Okay. Moving right along, it felt as slippery under there as it looked up here. He heard and felt the squeaky wetness as he tried to pull his arm free. He felt the undead things moving against his flesh down there. They turned... Okay, I'm not going to say he felt, I'm just going to say it happened. The undead things moved... Make it more direct. Moved against his flesh down there. They turned and twisted towards his warmth. He felt a sandpaper... No, not he felt. Just have it happen. A sandpapery tongue drug over his wrist and between his fingers. It was shockingly dry compared to all that filmy flesh below him. His arm popped free with a smacking sound he did not care for. He only took a moment to examine his arm for bites. There was an extra glossy coating over the gore that already covered his arm. That already covered his... say right arm from fist to elbow. There we go. It reminded him of saliva, and that had bad connotations for him. A few gurgling heads pulled loose from the soupy world below, pus strung between their shimmering lips as they opened their mouths and crawled toward him. Waldo set into motion. He ended up pulling aside more tarps as he scrambled for the back of the truck to get away from these horrors. Bodies rose off one another and slid against each other with a muddy crackling sound. They started to gain traction and drew closer to him faster than he was reaching the end of the trailer. He was used to the blue, green, and gray tones of zombie skin he had seen for many years now. These festering things sitting under these tarps together for all this time had, not has, keep it past tense, had an infected wound hue to their naked flesh. They were like raw festering, we've already said festering, raw raw putrid, I don't know, I may have to go with that. Raw putrid skin underneath a band-aid that desperately needs the air and sunlight to dry up and heal. Zombies didn't heal, though, and the smell was chemical and awful. Waldo needed to move with purpose. He rose to his feet on the wavering surface. Instead of crawling, he high-stepped over their backs and reached the end of the flatbed. Flatbed in a rush. The street appeared open beyond the truck and rubble, but the end of the tilted trailer was raised higher on the debris than the front. It was quite a drop. Slimy pink zombies crawled up behind him, and the canvas skin over the remaining bodies shifted back and forth under him. He took another leap. He landed on his feet this time, but the impact jarred up through his bones, hurting his hips and shoulders. His teeth clacked together, but fortunately for him, his tongue wasn't between them. Of course, his tongue still tasted like how he imagined it would be to lick an unwashed elephant's taint. Maybe biting off his tongue would be a relief at this point. He took a couple stiff steps forward when the rumbling started behind him. Waldo turned to see what he assumed was the rubble shifting again, but he kept walking backward. No shifting rubble. This was worse. First, one pink body and then another fell to the asphalt with two splats. The pair, I have the word they there, so let's fix a little typo. Ready? The pair shifted and turned toward Waldo, leaving a snotty snail trail under them. They didn't account for the rumble, though. The trailer's edge above his head shook and shifted. Then a wash of slimy undead bodies poured out from under the canvas material, and they skated along the pavement at his feet. Waldo let out a small but high squeak before he turned and ran. The cascade of bodies continued to pour out behind him and to slide after him. One of them tried. Here we go. I'm trying to figure out what I was doing there. When you typo so bad you can't even read the word. One of them tried to stand up off to Waldo's left. It's not good to have three prepositions in a row there, but I'm going to leave it. It slipped on its own gooey feet and burst open on the pavement. Fat white maggots spread out in the sun through the pink mash of what used to be a human body. Sorry, this zombie story is kind of gross. You do have undead people, so fair warning, I guess. I did say they were repugnant and repulsive. The arms, shoulders, and head crawled toward Waldo, leaving the rest of the mess behind. Others managed to stand or crawl without falling and bursting open. Waldo kept going. He spied a fissure that tore through the street completely across. He picked up speed in hopes of hurdling it. If he survived the jump, maybe he could finally get away. It wasn't as far as he feared. Let me put an ED on there. But it was still quite a leap. I need to put a he there. As he hurdled the open ditch, he saw a broken pipe. Why did I write pit? A broken pipe down in there. It appeared dried and crusted white over its surface around the breach. He landed fine and took a moment to drop his pace to a stroll in order to catch his breath. I got this guy running way more than a human could get away with, so every once in a while I'm going to have him try to catch his breath to make it seem real, even though it can't possibly be real. Zombies slipped down into the fissure behind him and struggled to get back out with their slimy limbs. A couple snagged their legs in the fall. Others snapped their legs in the fall. Others busted their chins on the way down. The space started to fill. That was when the next few skidded right over the slimy pileup and continued crawling after him with snotty trails marking their path. Let me capitalize that, paths. Not capitalize, make it plural. He sighed and picked up his pace to a jog. Waldo topped the gradual rise of the hill in the road. He stopped short of the downward slope when he saw a snarled traffic jam that extended into the distance. Looking from side to side, the cars and passenger trucks filled the street and even the sidewalks on both sides. Vehicles sat against the buildings themselves and crammed in around each other so that there was no room for anyone to even open a door. These drivers had clearly died here in their panic to escape the city. Waldo sympathized, but he had no desire to join them all this time later after living through as much as he had in order to get here. That's a little bit of an awkward sentence, but I'm going to leave it. His left hand felt absently at the pack strapped to his back underneath his shirt. Even if he decided he wanted to give up, this stuff was too important for that. He looked at the buildings. He scanned. Let me just say looked at it. Let me have him scan. He scanned the buildings on both sides of the street for doors, windows, or alleyways that might show a narrow pass to get by all this. As he watched, more zombies, these as dry as mummies, formed in the shadows and then crept out into the light. Zombies tended to move slowly, but these dry undead appeared to be really hustling compared to the slimy ones slipping and sliding behind him. Waldo shook his head and trotted toward the backs of the first vehicles in the jam that seemed to go on forever into the distance. If I walked on a truck full of zombie pudding, I can slip between or over cars, can't I? He stared down the wavering line between cars crunched together bumper to bumper. He might snag himself on something in there, or things lurking under the cars could grab him by the ankle with hands, teeth, or both. There probably wasn't a zombie under every car, but a jam that long had to have a couple hiding in there. It only took one to ruin his day. That left the option of going over the cars, and while that probably would sound fun to a couple crazy kids looking for a good time, it only took one slip to break a leg, and then he'd be done for, even if it took the zombies let's say a few minutes to reach him. He clicked his tongue a couple times, but that just brought up the flavor of pickled eggs and hot dog water. Waldo turned in a slow circle, seeing the dry and wet zombies closing in. He stared at the grimy license plate and busted taillights of what he thought might be an older model Cadillac, as he considered which was his least bad option, let's say going forward. All right, now let's have him have some sort of physiological things related to running this much. His heart pounded against the inside of his ribs. His lungs and legs burned with uncleared lactic acid. His head throbbed in painful time with his heartbeat. If he stood here too much longer, he knew he might not find the energy to keep going. All right. So we have acknowledged that he is tired. So that helps a little bit with the realism as we go through the rest of this craziness. Then a hand covered in blackened sores reached out from under the caddy and locked on his ankle. The throaty growl of the zombie under the boat of a car echoed. The throaty growl of the zombie echoed under that boat of a car. There we go. That was bad word placement, but I got it fixed now. Alright, fuck me, Waldo growled back. He shifted and twisted from side to side until 2 white fingers snapped off the hand and bounced away. Waldo broke the unseen zombie's grip and escaped upward in a hand-over-foot scramble. It appeared the choice had been made for him. Over it was. As he vaulted from trunk to roof on the black caddy, he planted the heels of his hands in beads of glass. It was safety glass, but it still hurt, even though it didn't cut. It couldn't have been that old of a model if it had safety glass. Waldo supposed every car was an older model now. Everything was classic. Everything was classic in the apocalypse. See, that's a line you can put on a t-shirt. All right. Off the caddy's roof and over the hood that was broad enough to picnic on, Waldo made to step onto the rusted trunk of what he thought might be a Chevy. A number of hands reached up from between the caddy's hood and the Chevy's trunk to swat at Waldo's legs. He resisted with something between a kick and a step. Since he didn't commit to either one in his surprise, he simply fell into those hands. Waldo made an effort to pull up and out of that gap, but just twisted and slipped between the cars in a rush. Alright, I got like a mess of notes here, and I'm going to try and get those out of my way and then use them properly, but we'll see how that works out. This may be a scene that benefits more from editing than the first write, but let's see how we go. Alright, between the cars in a rush. He's, let's say, striking his head and one shoulder on the way down. He knocked out his... Okay, let me put an in and down. He knocked out his breath on the flat impact with the pavement. Alright. Waldo lifted his head slowly, but forced himself to shake out the black stars, trying to sparkle dark across his vision. Zombie hands brought him down, which meant zombie bodies were already down here with him. Okay. He sucked in a fresh pull of air that buzzed inside his head and made details extra sharp. Like the world had changed in some way. He was wrong about how many zombies were under these cars. It was a hell of a lot more than just one each. Coming out of the sun into these boxy, uneven shadows. Okay, let me spell uneven right. To these boxy, uneven shadows. Come on now. Oh, thank you for the raid, man. I appreciate you being here. Hope you enjoyed this zombie story. It gets a little gross sometimes, so if you got other places you'd rather be or you're trying to eat something, I understand. Coming out of the sun into these boxy, uneven shadows below this long dead traffic jam, he could only see the eyes and teeth. Thank you, sir. He could only see the eyes and teeth of the creatures creeping toward him from every direction. No way to get a good count of how many, but he estimated it was way too many. Only one thing to do. Waldo seized two heads and smashed them together over and over until they burst their dark, rotten brains all over his shirt. He cast the limp corpses aside and took hold of the next head, trying to bite him. 2 down, too many more to go. He tried to beat this one's skull against the blacktop that had faded to light gray. They were too close to the ground to make that work. Waldo rolled and tried to slam these zombies, the zombie's head up against the underside of the Nissan next to him. There was no leverage, and the others drew. I'm using the word drew way too many times. I'm going to have to edit that out some as we go along. The others drew too close for him to keep going one at a time. I already said he, so let's do Waldo. Waldo stopped with the hands and started with his boots. He kicked the undead away all around him to gain some breathing room, but he only got a very little. Next, still on his back between cars, he kicked and stomped the heads of the monsters sideways into the chassis and axles of the vehicles. I'll say bones split and brains spilled. Okay, the place stunk to high heaven, but the dispatched bodies provided some barrier to the others trying to get to him. All right. Oh Lord, I just dropped something I need. Pardon me. I need more table, or I need less post-it notes. Obviously the answer is more table. Who can survive with less post-it notes? Are you with me on that? All right, others trying to get to him. He rolled one way and then the other, looking for any path of regress. Okay, here we go. So what have I done here? Okay, I've gotten that part. All right. More were coming. More eyes and teeth in shadows under the surrounding cars. Okay. More eyes and teeth and shadows under the surrounding cars. More bodies from the open street. Walking and climbing over and between the cars. Most had missed him either on the right or the left, but they would surround him and track him down given enough time. Alright, who else is coming? Worst of all, he saw... No, let's see, he spotted. Worst of all, he spotted the slick and greasy undead from under the festering tarps of the semi-truck. They slipped under the vehicles with ease. Alright. He needed to move. Alright. That seems obvious, but it's worth saying. Alright, so he needed to move. He needs to get himself out of there. Alright. Now let me add more here. I'm going to make the slippery zombies their own paragraph because I want to add some more nastiness here. Worst of all, he spotted the slick and greasy undead from under the festering tarps of the semi-truck. They slipped under the vehicles with ease. Their bodies lubricated by the wet decay. Okay, that's good. Let's say Waldo thought he could almost see the stink lines rising off them like an old cartoon. There we go. Alright, I think I got a good visual on that. Alright, he needed to move. Of course he does. He just keeps sitting there while I'm typing other things. Get yourself moving, man. Alright. Okay, here we go. Then the inevitable happened. One reanimated dude turned his head at the right moment and saw Waldo relaxing there on his back between piles of bashed zombie heads. This undead a-hole wore some kind of uniform as he pulled up and started moaning with his hands out. Others did a double take and turned toward this moaner. It wasn't a cop's uniform. It was tight against the zombie's skin, like the dude had worn too small of a size, or he had bloated after death and resurrection. Okay, let me see if the computer will spell this for me. Resurrection. Thank you, computer. Now, nobody but us knows that I can't spell. Alright, let me pull up here. I don't need an extra page until I got words on it. Alright, after death and resurrection. It could have been a male carrier uniform, but was too blackened with mold and mildew to tell. All right. The rotten mail carrier slipped into the gap between the Caddy and the Nissan. Others followed behind him. Well, I'll say others followed with him, creating a bottleneck. The zombie clogged up the progress there, but the others kept pressing him through the tight space. Those ill-fitted and rotten clothes tore off him first. Then the dead skin ripped loose. No, let's say the dead skin ruptured in 3 places before tearing completely away from the bones. The horde kept pushing the skeletal mail carrier forward as his guts spilled out and hardened organs bounced on the street between his feet. The lump of black heart hung from a single cord, dead and still. The exposed lungs filled and contracted as the compromised zombie went on moaning. All right. Waldo pushed bodies one way and then one way and the other to clear a path for him to crawl deeper into the traffic jam. All right. He hadn't gotten far before hands clawed at his boots. Good Lord, spell some things right. At his boots and pant legs. He grabbed the caddy's bumper, caddy's front bumper, to try to pull himself up. He knew all the others would see him, but he didn't want to stay down here any longer. All right. The bumper, okay. The bumper broke free from all its bolts and fell to the street. Heads with milky, pale eyes. Let's say white. Milky, white eyes turned in his direction from cars all around. Okay. He's in bad shape down here. This guy's got to start making some progress. They growled and moved toward him. Many fell between the cars. And he heard, let's just say it happened, and bones snapped all around. But that just meant they were down here with him and coming for him. Waldo, we don't want to say shuffled. I say shuffled too many times. Waldo squirmed out from under the bumper and then kicked it. All right, and then kicked it with both his feet. It jammed under the cars, and he heard zombies scratching behind it, but it seemed to have stopped them. Okay. Didn't stoop them, it stopped them. All right, seemed to have stopped them. All right, I still need 2 P's there. Okay. As he rolled to his stomach and started army crawling, he heard a squishing sound. Hazarding a glance back, he saw the slimy pink zombies had slipped around the barrier of the bumper and were still coming. He started crawling faster as he grumbled, "I hate those pink effers." Okay, there we go. All right, I wanted to break something up here. Hold on. More were coming, more eyes. Okay. I want to break the chapter where he fell. Fell between the cars in a rush. Okay, let's do this. So this is chapter 5 we're playing with now. Okay. He started crawling faster as he grumbled, "I hate those pink effers." Okay. All right, where am I in my notes now? Help her rip loose. Okay. He weaved between the wheels as best he could. First dodging one way, and then the other, as he foiled the zombies trying to track him in this underworld of metal, oil spots, and patchy darkness. There we go. All right. Let's go. He ducked under a Cherokee and then past a Highlander. One got too close and got fingers on him. Waldo shifted, got, let's say worked the toe of his boot under its flabby chin, and jammed its scalp up into the jack position bolt under the edge of another car. Okay. All right, so I got those. He skirted under a Corolla. Let me see if I spelled that right. He skirted under a Corolla without much trouble, but trying to crawl quickly under the, hold on, okay, that's where the glass is. Trying to crawl quickly under the Subaru Outback proved to be trouble. I don't know a lot about cars, but last night I spent a good bit of time finding different vehicle names and figuring out how much space was typically underneath them when they had nothing in them and when the cars were full. So that's the kind of research I was doing. Believe it or not, there's information about clearance, but you really got to search to figure out, like, once the vehicle's full and it's pushed down on its shocks, which ones have a lot of space and which ones would be tough to crawl under. That's not really something they advertise all that much. But the Subaru Outback is surprisingly low when it is full. Okay. A lot of people were complaining about that. Again, I don't have no problem with the vehicle. I'm just using this for a zombie story. But trying to crawl quickly under the Subaru Outback proved to be trouble. It was way tighter under there than he expected. as he scraped his chin and cheek against the pebbled surface of the street, his shirt and the profile of the items stored in his pack, wedged his chest into the street, making it tough to breathe. He didn't panic. All right, let me make this a new paragraph here, sorry. All right. Again, I got notes and pencils and everything else in my way here. It's like I'm digging through zombies just to write this story. He didn't panic right away as he wiggled from side to side, but the spots in his vision snuck up on him as he realized he was in real trouble. To add to it, he felt hands on his legs first, and then the pressure of teeth against the soles of his boots. They tried to pull him backward, constricting his lungs further, but he found it in him to kick against their faces. This gave him a bit of leverage, and he pulled and pushed himself forward a few more inches. Waldo sucked in precious air and started moving again. Let's say before he could emerge from the Subaru's low profile. Okay, before he could emerge from the Subaru's low profile, one of them had his belt untucked Waldo's shirt on the right side and leaned in for a bite. Of his flank. All right. In desperation, he reached down blind. Let me roll up here just a little bit, scroll up. He reached down blind with his right hand and palmed the zombie's face. He felt the teeth against his skin. He felt the teeth against his teeth against his knuckles. I know his hand's kind of weird if I'm doing it that way, but I want to say something besides palm. He felt the teeth against his knuckles, but then they... Well, let me spell knuckles correctly. He felt the teeth against his knuckles, but then they released their pressure without breaking the skin. Its breath was cold, but then the thing sniffed the gore on Waldo's right arm, where he had punched through that zombie's skull at the beginning of all this. Alright, I want to go back and make sure I get the zombie in there that had a couple fingers broken off at the beginning of the traffic jam, so I want to put that back in at a future date here. Alright, Waldo's right, gore on Waldo's right arm before it punched through the skull at the beginning of all this. He grabbed the zombie by one cheek and jammed its head upward into the underside of the engine. He didn't spill the thing's brains, but the head did get stuck, and that let Waldo keep going. Alright, he paused for a moment, studying the black sores. Alright, let me fix the word here. Alright, studying the black sores on the stuck zombie's arms and the two missing fingers on one hand. This was the same one that had grabbed him when this mess with the traffic jam started. Thanks a lot. The zombie growled back, echoing through the Outback's engine block. Waldo crawled onward. Okay. All right, here we go. He came to an equinox. All right, he came to an equinox. No room under. Is that an unequinox? All right. He came to an equinox. No room under there either. Items piled up past the windows, weighing the thing. Exactly an hour late, but still here. Hopefully didn't miss any toe play. No, got him Tom, I got him crawling underneath a bunch of cars. So he's fighting zombies under cars. All right, he came to an equinox. No room under there either. And Tom, I actually researched how much room is under particular vehicles when they're overloaded. So that's not something the car companies advertise, but I managed to get some of the information from people who complained. All right. Usually people moving furniture. They complained a lot about some of their cars being too close to the ground. He came to an equinox. No room under there either. Items piled up past the windows, weighing the vehicle down on its shocks. Say Waldo veered right to discover a zombie pinned between the partially opened door and the, what are we putting next to the CRV, or maybe it was a RAV4 next to it. It was one of those letter cars. It's one of those cars with a letter name. Okay. The important part was that there was more room under it, so Waldo kept going. While there was room, there was plenty of cast off debris spread out under these trapped vehicles. Okay. All right. Moving to these notes. Took so many notes on cars, how much space was in between them, what they had underneath them, all that kind of stuff. Weaving between the wheels. Let me get caught up to where I am here. All right, I need to. Waldo pushed away clothing that felt tacky under his hands. He scooted a little further. Okay, I've already done this. Okay. He scooted a little further. And grabbed a dirty diaper. Grabbed a dirty diaper. Okay. This needs to be the same paragraph. I don't think it works perfectly, but I'm going to keep it there. All right. He scooted a little further and grabbed a dirty diaper. It was swollen from rain, but hard as a rock, with the baby turds fossilized where they stuck out of the elastic leg holes. Still, he groaned and rolled the diaper away. One more cooler sat between him and getting one vehicle further along. It was on wheels, so he tried to roll it aside quietly. Was someone tailgating out here? Someone tailgating out here, he whispered to no one. The zombie pinned in his door gave a growl in response. Waldo turned to say something else. But then tipped the cooler over with a crash. Okay, shit. Then a half dozen severed heads rolled out. Each one was snapping its teeth. And one bounced toward his face. Waldo swatted and then kicked it away. Shit. Why? All right. How are you supposed to respond to severed zombie heads? He crawled forward, rolling more of the zombie heads out of his path. Okay, he crawled forward, rolling more of the zombie heads out of his path. In the next gap, he decided to stand and see if he could travel above for a while. As soon as he raised up, several undead on top and between cars turned in his direction. He dropped back to his belly and navigated through. All right. Got one more vehicle here I need to go through. Okay. Going under a Tacoma. All right, I misspelled that. Going under a Tacoma. Okay, come on. Going under a Tacoma was easy because there was lots of room, but something was dripping. It didn't smell like oil, and the vehicle shifted from side to side with something moving up there. He tried not to think about it and kept going. All right. Then the road ahead sparkled like a million diamonds. Like a million diamonds from all the broken glass. From all the broken glass spread before him. This wasn't safety glass. This wasn't safety glass this time. He turned his head slowly and saw so many feet passing at his side. He crawled the other direction wide around the field of deadly shards. As he moved sideways and peered under the expansive darkness back the way he came. He saw nothing but eyes and teeth. They were everywhere. He reached an aisle that seemed wider and clear for the moment. Waldo rose up to a crouch and shuffled forward, crunching, shuffled forward, comma, crunching on the glass as he went. Okay. All right. Okay. It felt like forever. Okay. Hope it doesn't feel like forever for everybody watching, but it felt like forever. Then the moment he emerged from the pack of cars, he stood surprised. Like he couldn't believe he'd gone all the way to the end. He couldn't believe he had gone all the way to the end. Right. Alright, where are we? Ooh, we're almost to the end of a chapter. Come out from under. Okay, there we are. He couldn't believe he had gone all the way to the end. He had resigned himself to crawling under cars for the rest of his life. But here he was back in the open. Time to go and leave this city in the rear view. He took 2 steps, but then stopped. He took 2 steps, but then stopped. Okay. But what's he going to do now, Jay? Okay, well, hold on. Let me tell you. Let me do a new paragraph. As his eyes finally adjusted, he stared into the backs of hundreds of zombies spread out through the street ahead and over the brown grass of a park. There were spaces between them, but they all stood facing away. None of them really moved. There were no noises except the harsh rasp of their breathing as they swayed from side to side on unsure legs. Waldo shivered in the heat as he realized they waited for someone like him to give them a reason to move. He was again on the horns of a dilemma. There was no going back, but going forward meant that they would see him and the whole nightmare would start again. He swallowed on a dry throat and thought the click was so loud he expected them all to turn at once. Okay. Growls grew in volume behind him as the persistent zombies continued through the traffic jam. Now the tinkle and shimmer of broken glass being moved by crawling bodies built up as well. Still, the swaying zombies didn't react. Maybe if he moved slowly enough, he could... Asking if Armand is writing. He may not be looking at chat right now. Maybe if he moved slowly enough, he could walk right between them without alerting them. He had never tried such a thing before. Yes, Armand is working on book 2 now. Hit his 10K on book 3. Good job, man. Armand is talking about the First Coast series. His official Nano book is book 3, I believe. But book 1 is up for pre-order until January 15th when it comes out. And the other books are in the offing there. So you might want to check those out. Armand Rosamilia. Anything you buy from him is going to be good. I'll talk about his books a little bit more when I get to update my Nano here in a moment. Still need a couple hundred more words to hit my 10,000 goal. I want to get to the end of this chapter and start fresh with another one here. Maybe if he moved slowly enough, he could walk right between them without alerting them. He had never tried such a move. He had never seen or heard of anyone trying such a move. Probably because it was an exceedingly stupid move. Waldo took a deep breath and decided the only way was forward. So it was time to get as far as he could go before far as he could go before a horn blared right behind him for a long sustained note. Every zombie he could see out into the distance turned at once. Waldo turned as well. He was just as curious as they were. Behind him, the hulking shape of an older model Ford Explorer shook from side to side. It was packed with zombies, like a damn SUV clown car of zombies. Many of the windows were down or broken, and zombie heads and arms reached out of each one as they jammed in those openings together. All right. What is next? They shifted about in the overstuffed front seat. All right, they shifted about in the overstuffed front seat enough so that the zombie driver honking with his elbow Okay, they shifted about in the overstuffed front seat enough so that the zombie driver honking with his elbow finally lifted off the horn. Waldo's ears rang in the heavy silence that followed, but not enough to cover the growls of the zombies, well, let's say the undead, of the disturbed undead that finally found a reason to move again. Even more zombies with shards of glass sticking out of their bodies. even more zombies with shards of glass sticking out of their bodies emerged from the terrible traffic jam as well. So, what now? Alright, so what now? Waldo shook his head. Waldo shook his head. Where the hell did you buy a heavy-duty battery that could last this long into the end of the world? Alright. And that'll be the end of that chapter. So what chapter was I on? I think I was on 5. Oh, thank you for the gifted sub, Tom. I really appreciate it. We're about to look at how Tom is doing with his writing. Since he gifted a sub, I need to be really complimentary of him, even if he's doing a terrible job. So let's hope that he is doing well. Alright, so I still need these two post-it notes because I got a couple things on them for tomorrow's writing. But I am pretty happy with where I am today. 10,075 words, and my goal was 10,000. So we are about to update my NaNoWriMo. So jumping to my profile. Let's do a quick update. 10,075. 10,075. All right. Again, that keeps me well on my 2,500 word a day. Uh-oh, Tom says. I'm sure you did fine, Tom. I'm sure you did fine. All right, so I'm very happy with that. So update my progress. 10,075 words on Ruthless, Rabid, Raging, Ravenous, Rampaging, Remorseless, Repulsive, Revolting, Repugnant zombies. I'm really leaning into the Repulsive, Revolting, Repugnant part of the last few chapters. So let's get them. We might get them Ravenous and Rabid here in a moment. They are pretty ruthless already, though. So I got my 10,000 word badge. Pretty proud of that. Now I'm going to jump to the full view of myself so you can look at my pretty face while I pull up my buddies. I only look at the nano pages for my buddies that have said that it's okay. John Quick has nothing to be ashamed about, so let's take a look at his. Going back to the cut view. All right, John Quick is at 14,306 words. Now, for day 4, if you're averaging 1,667 words or so, that is the pace to get you to 50,000 words in 30 days. So today that would be right around 6,700-ish words, maybe a little less. That's some rough math in my head, so people can check me on that if you want. So the fact that he is John Quick is well over double that amount. He is doing great. So excellent job to John Quick, who is writing Beneath the Surface, which is horror and supernatural. You can't go wrong with a John Quick novel. John Quick has 40,000 words in 4 days. Yes, NaNoWriMo for John Quick is like maybe a casual week and a half. So no shame in his game there. All right. So who else can we look at? Let me go back to my buddies list. Oh, who is this fella here? His name is Tom Duffy. Let's see how he's doing. Should we scold him for the amount of work he's done? Let's take a look. All right, Tom Duffy, writing The Light Fantastic, a horror and supernatural novel, is at 11,220 words. If you're doing a 2,500 word a day pace, you're done in 20 days. He is a good bit past that as well. So Tom has done something quite smart, which is he is going to get well ahead, a good cushion there. So even if he has a couple bad days here and there, he is well ahead of pace. So good job. Tom Duffy is no John Quick, but great job so far. I think Tom Duffy's is a John Quick in small doses. I think we'll see how he goes there. All right, so let's take a look at another buddy. Again, I don't want to look at anyone who didn't want me to, but let's look at Peter Germany. Again, everybody seems to be doing well. Peter Germany is at 7,456 words, so he's almost a full day ahead of pace. So very good job. He's doing Sliced by Night. I almost have to imagine that that's a horror novel, even though he hasn't picked a genre, but very good job with him as well. So a lot of people are really getting a good start, and hopefully that will carry them through as they go. Let's say, look at Ryan real quick. Ryan J. Pelton. I don't know exactly what the initials for his novel stand for, but he is 8,795 words, so well over the 6,700 that would basically be on pace. So very good job for him as well. Anybody watching who wants to buddy up with me on the NaNoWriMo site, I'm Jay Wilburn on there, and I'll buddy up with you. And if you give me permission, I'll check in on you with your progress as you go, and encourage you and make you part of the community here as we're having each other, helping each other achieve our nano goals. Alex from Iowa is a good friend of many of the people here. Thank you, sir. Averaging 4,200 words a day so far this month on all my projects. I'll need a day off soon. Yeah, I'm a big proponent of days off. I think that's underutilized aspect of being a writer. What usually happens is you end up taking days off anyway because you kind of get burned out, and then you feel guilty about it. But if you plan a day off when you're doing well, then I think you're energizing yourself instead of making yourself feel guilty for something that you should be doing anyway. People need days off, and writers tend to try to push 7 days a week. There is something to be said for writing every day. There's nothing wrong with that, but there's no shame in taking the day off as well. The encouraging is that I don't want to be called out for not doing enough. All right. Well, whatever works. Again, I'm going to keep it positive, but if fear is your motivator, I will try to be fearful. So this is Alex from Iowa. He is not exactly a new writer, but he is in a developmental stage. He is a big fan of the Mondo Method podcast, which is done by Armand Rosamelia and Chuck Buda, and is kind of under their tutelage there. And that's a podcast that encourages writers, but then also talks about specific topics dealing with writing itself, but then also the business. But Alex from Iowa is doing Curse of the Blood Moon. I have messed up that title every single time I've tried to say it up until now. He is at 7,359 words, well over the 6,700 that would be on pace for the month. So very proud of him. He has done a number of short stories and has gotten more and more acceptances, and now is working on a novel, which is always a leap from short stories to novel writing, and he seems to be doing really well with that first draft. So good job, Alex from Iowa. All right, let's see if there's anyone else I want to look at before we take a look at Armand Rosamelia. I want to do a little bit more with his NaNoWriMo. All right, I think we'll check in on everybody else on another day. I want to get to Armand because I want to do sort of a deep dive into some of his work. I have the paperbacks for most of the novels I'm going to talk about on the shelf, but I'm going to look at them on screen here with one of the places that we're going to go. All right, Man Down, First Coast Thrillers, Book 3. Good job to Alex, I agree. This is going to be a new series. The first book is coming out January 15th, but you can pre-order that book now, First Coast Thrillers. Armand Rosamelia has several great books, but the important thing here is he is at 10,119 words. He is well over a 20-day pace, but I also know that he's writing more than one thing, and the book that he's officially doing is a little over 60,000 words. So his goal is to go a little bit further. He may not make all 60 or 63,000 words or however much it is this month, but getting 50,000 words of that done would be great, and he is on pace to be able to blow right past that goal. So very good job making your 10,000 mark. I would like to take a quick look at Armand's author page on Amazon. I'm a big fan of his. I am a friend of his. We've co-written some books together. One of the series that he has out now, it's going to be longer than a trilogy, is The United States of Apocalypse 3. He co-wrote that with Mark Tufo. Both of them are well-known zombie authors, apocalyptic authors, even though Armand is doing more work with crime fiction and thrillers. He has revisited horror here for this series that is doing very, very well, and got attention for a reason. Trapped is one of the ones he's doing with Severed Press, I think it is. He's done 6 really great monster novels. None of them are terribly long, so you can get through them pretty quick, but they got meat to them. And Trapped kind of brings together elements of some of the earlier books. So if you read through all those books from Armand from Severed Press, you kind of get some good Easter eggs with this one. Gorefest, very good anthology here, includes work from Wrath James White, Wesley Southard, Stephen Kazanewski, Armand Rosamilla's in it, of course, and the Splatterpunk Award nominated Jay Wilburn. I mean, that is an impressive lineup, if I do say so myself. All right, going back through the Dirty Deeds series, I love this series from him. The books aren't terribly long. Again, they're closer to novella length, but great crime fiction, great relatable characters, great flawed characters. All of it is wonderful. The Hidden Truth is a book that Armand Rosamilla co-wrote with yours truly, and it covers a couple of washed-out tabloid reporters who are trying to save their jobs, so they create an app that allows people to tell on each other and share their secrets, and the wealthy can pay to keep their secrets hidden, and of course it leads to world-destroying levels of violence. The Dying Days series is one of my favorite zombie series. It leans in a little bit to extreme horror, but there's a lot more to it than that, and it's one that I love, and I'm looking forward to reading through again here relatively soon. All right, what else can we find? There's a couple key ones that I want to look at. All right, he's got something coming up. All Hell Breaks Loose, the complete short fiction of Armand Rosamilla, Volume 2. That one is up for pre-order, and I'm going to go from memory here, which is dangerous with Jay Wilburn these days, but I believe November 21st is when that one is coming out, so you can pre-order that now. I wrote the introduction to it, and very flattering introduction, if I do say so myself, heartfelt, all the things that you want. And if you'd like a taste, go ahead and get the complete short fiction of Armand Rosamilla Volume 1. I believe that one is called Making Pretend or Make Pretend. November 21st, yes, my birthday, so buy it. And if you're not getting anything for Armand for his birthday, buy his All Hell Breaks Loose here series, or the latest short story collection. I think short stories really do show what an author is made of, and he has a good career of them there. A Month of Duncan he does a good bit of interesting nonfiction. A Month of Duncan, every day he went to a different Dunkin' Donuts, some of them in different states. He ordered different food and talked about it, but he would sit down with whoever was there and have a conversation. Sometimes he was meeting with people he knew, and other times he just started talking to whoever was there. That is a ballsy move these days when people don't normally do that. The Sea Was Angry is a great sea monster story if you like it. I talked about these books yesterday, but the Keyport Cthulhu trilogy he co-wrote with Chuck Buda is some excellent work, and it represents a time period where he made a big leap with his writing. Abandoned, Frozen in Ice, The Beast, these are all his Severed Press books, and I believe there's more of those coming. I think they talked him into writing some more. The big problem with writing well and having lots of people like them is that publishers will harass you into writing more books, and that's the kind of author that Armand is. Dirty Deeds book 10 is there, and all of those books are worth reading. So there's more Keyport Cthulhu. We're getting on back here. Agromny is another one of his Severed Press monster books. The Enemy Held Near we co-wrote together, and it is a haunted house story, and that was our first collaboration and one of our best. Armand says there's a great chapter with Jay Wilburn in A Month of Duncan. I believe we talked about ghostwriting in there, so if you're interested in that or other things, you can grab that book. And Tom says, and if you are getting something for Armand, you should get donuts, coffee, New Jersey pizza, and an egg, cheese, and pork roll sandwich. Or just buy his book. You can do it either way. But that is a good assessment of Armand's interests. We also wrote Room 138 together, which is sci-fi and sort of mystery in it as well. The Dark Frontier, is that what you wrote with Chuck Buda? No, this is an anthology. Okay, you got some westerns coming with Chuck Buda here pretty soon. Shakedown, the First Coast Thriller series. This is the one that's up for pre-order and is coming out January 15th, so you can pre-order that now. And then we're going to dig back pretty far. The Belford stories I like. There's Room 138. A View from My Seat. This is one that I really do like. Maybe no cheese. I don't know if cheese counts as a condiment. You may have to clarify that with Armand. There's only particular situations where he's interested in that, I believe. Cheese is never a condiment, he says. All right, very good. A View from My Seat is one of his baseball books. Now, Armand Rosamilia is a big supporter of the Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp. They are a minor league team of the Marlins, I believe. Again, going from my spotty memory. He followed that minor league team, obviously in Jacksonville, near where he lives. But as they traveled around the road, he went to some of the away games. He got permission to interview some of the players, and I believe they sell that book at the stadium, as well as, you can buy it online and wherever he is at conventions. But an interesting look at players aspiring to get into the game. So one of my favorite baseball books and one of my favorite nonfiction books. We can keep going here. He has a lengthy career, so Green River Blend is one of a great trilogy. The first book is great. This Hellmouth series, I still have nightmares about it. We co-wrote it with a couple other authors. I'm not saying it's not great, but it's not the book I would first recommend to you. Shocker series he co-wrote with Frank Edler, and Frank Edler always makes things interesting. And now we're getting back here into the weeds. And now here's that first one, the volume 1 of Make Pretend is short fiction. I love that book. His Dying Days young adult book. So the series itself, Dying Days, is a little extreme. It's not the kind of thing you would hand to kids, but this young adult one is interesting. Chelsea Avenue is a great trilogy. The first book is great too. And now we're moving back in time to all the great and interesting things in Armand's past, but very much enjoy his work, and any of those things that you're interested in, check out Armand Rosamilia. I feel like I sold his work pretty well.